everyone, welcome back to CBSE Learners. This is me Pooja M. K. Rao. I welcome you all to my online class. Today's class is specifically for my 10th class board exam students who are going to appear for the board exam. And this is the first chapter which already I have started teaching and which I am continuing. Okay, so this chapter is from geography part of your SST textbook. And this chapter is resources and development. Now in my previous video I have given you the detailed explanation of resources and how it is used for development, isn't it? And on the basis of what the resources are classified. Now we have only completed, I think, three basis of one basis of origin. One is basis of ownership and the other is basis of exhaustibility. Now today we are going to learn about the stock resources, potential resources and reserves. Okay, and it will be on the basis of status development. Okay, so without further wasting any time, let's start the class. And I will request all of you just to take out your books. Even though if you are not having book, you can listen to my video and you can understand what is there in your book, because I prefer line by line explanation. Okay, so let's start. Now on the basis of status development, we will classify the resources first. Okay, so on the basis of status development, we will classify the resource. Okay, resources. Now what do you mean by it? It was very easy when you understand the origin. It's classified on the basis of origin. It was easy for you to understand because the term exhaustibility you know. I don't know how many of you know the status of development. It actually classifies the resources, how much the resource is developed. Okay, so whether that is we are utilizing, whether we have kept it for future use, or whether we are having proper technology or not to use that, and whether the resource is developed and whether we are utilizing that or not. Okay, so on the status of development, resources can be classified first as potential resources, number 2 developed resources, number 3 stock resources, and number 4 are reserves. Okay, so potential resources are none other than the resources which are having potential to develop as resource, but we are not utilizing them. Just I will give first summary and then I will give you the short note. In this video, I will give you the question answer, the short note pattern. Okay, so developed resources are those resources which are surveyed and their quality and quantity are determined for future use, not for future use, which we are for utilization. Okay, stocks are those resources which we have kept for future use because we are not having proper technology to convert them into resources. Okay, so these are stocks. And reserves, mostly we confuse between stock and reserves. Now why? Because both terms seems to be same, isn't it? Stock, reserves. Now stock is the resources which are having potential to grow, but these resources are useful, but we don't have proper technology to grow these resources, okay, to modify these resources. But reserves, we are having proper technology, we can use them, but still we prefer to keep them for our future generation. Okay, for example, see hydroelectricity. In case of reserves, you see hydroelectricity, the river water, we are having technology to modify the river, we can use the river water to produce hydroelectricity, but we don't prefer, we kept it for future use, isn't it? So similarly, stocks are, in what sense it is different? Stocks are resources, but we are not having proper technology to use the resources. Okay, because I have always several times I have said you that technology and institutions are very important to modify one resources. Okay, so let's further go to the explanation. Okay, now let's see what is the potential resources. Okay, what will be the answer if short note comes for your potential resources. Okay, now let's read potential resources. Resources which are found in region but have not been utilized. Okay, for example, the western parts of India, particularly Rajasthan and Gujarat, have enormous potential for the development of wind and solar energy. But the use of wind and solar energy is not common in our country, isn't it? The Rajasthan and parts of Rajasthan and Gujarat, they are having enough of solar and wind energy. I mean, not wind energy, they are having potential, okay, to produce wind and solar energy, but we are not using them. Okay, still now they are not in use. So these are potential resources. So potential resources. Potential resources. Okay. Now whenever you are writing any answer, first you should give the heading. It is the proper way to write the answer. Okay. Now see, resources which are found in region. Resources which are found in regions but are not used but have not been utilized, okay, are known as potential resources. It means they have potential but we are not utilizing them. For example, always write your answer with the example. Okay, it creates some good efficiency about some good impression of yours on your examiner's mind. Okay, so let's write the example. The western parts of India, the western parts of India, such as Rajasthan and Gujarat, have enormous potential for the development of wind and solar energy, but so far they have not been developed properly. Okay. So these are still not developed properly. These are having potential to work as a resource, but they are still not developed properly. Okay. So this is the potential resources. Okay. Now let's come to the developed resources, which are determined, they utilize on the basis of the quality and quantity are determined, but they are utilized. They are also utilized. Okay, so they are developed resources whose potential are determined with the help of survey. Their quantity, their quantity. Okay, so let's see what are developed resources. Developed resources. Okay, so resources which are surveyed and their quality and quantity have been determined for utilization those resources are known as developed resources. Okay. Now comes the, and these resources already we are using. Okay. So these are developed. The resources which are developed and we are using. Those are developed resources. Okay. So in the example you can give anything. Now comes the stock resources. Now what are the stock resources? Okay. Let's know what are the stock resources. Okay. Now let's see stock resources. Stock. Now what are they? Stock. Stocks are materials in the environment which have potential to satisfy human needs, but human beings do not have the appropriate technology to access these, are included among stock. Now see, for example, water is a compound of two inflammable gases, isn't it? One is oxygen and the other is hydrogen, that is H2O, isn't it? Now from water you can get hydrogen plus oxygen, but it's having two rich source of energy, isn't it? But still we are not having that much technology to bring that energy from the water, isn't it? So these are the stock resources. Okay. Now the stock resources are resources or materials in the environment which have potential to satisfy human needs, but we are not having proper technology to access them. These are known as stock resources. For example, water is a compound of two inflammable gases, hydrogen and oxygen. Okay, so here you can write down the H2 also if you want beside water, which can be used as rich source of energy, but we don't have proper technology to use them. Okay, so this is the stock resources. Okay, so which are having potential to grow, but we are not having proper technology to use them. Okay, now next comes the reserve. So mostly we confuse between stock and reserve. So already I have explained you what is the difference between the reserves and the stocks. Now let's write the definition of reserves. Okay, what are reserves? Or you can call short mode on reserves. Okay. Now see, these are the subset of stock. Actually, these are more or less related to stock. Okay, it's more or less related to stock. But the difference is which can be used with the help of existing technology. Okay, so it can come the difference also, difference between stock and this reserves. So you can differentiate easily, I think so, between the stock and the reserves. Okay, it is more or less related to stock, which can be used with the help of existing technology. Okay, these are the resources which can be used with the help of existing technology. For example, river water. Okay. Oh, one more thing I forgot to explain, that is existing technology but are kept reserved for the future use. Okay, this is actually the main thing, which are kept reserved for the future use. For example, see, river water can produce hydroelectricity with the help of existing technology, but these are kept for future use. Okay, present situation we are not using them as that much, we have kept it for future use. Okay, so these are the differences between stock and reserve, and these are the resources, classified resources on the basis of status of development, how they are developed. One is potential, it is having potential but we are not using them. The other is developed, which we are using the developed resources, and the other is stock. These resources are having potential but we are not having technology to use them. And the last one is the reserve, which is more or less similar to the stock, but the difference is reserves we have kept intentionally for future use. We are not using them in present time. Okay, we are having technology but intentionally we kept them for future use. Okay, now classification resources we have completed. Now it's time to see the development of resources. Okay, resources are vital for satisfying human needs as well as for human survival, as well as for maintaining the quality of life. It was believed that resources are free gifts of nature. As a result, human beings used them indiscriminately, and this has led to the following major problems. So what are the problems arise because of the overuse of resources? The question can come like this also. Okay, so what are the problems or the crisis responsible, what are the reasons for the crisis of resources? Okay, what are the reasons of the crisis of resources? Okay, now see, depletion of resources for satisfying the greed of few individuals. Okay, so as a result, human beings used it indiscriminately, and this led to following major problems. So what are the problems? Okay, what are the problems we are facing? Okay, so see, what are the reasons of the crisis of resources? First thing, excessive use of resources. Okay, excessive use of resources and thinking them as the free gifts of nature. Okay, overuse and exploitation are the main reasons of the crisis of resources. Okay, so excessive use of resources and thinking them as the free gifts of nature, overuse and exploitation of the resources are the major reasons of the crisis of resources. Okay, next we will learn about the problems we are facing because of the crisis of resources. So what are the depletion of resources for satisfying the greed of few individuals, accumulation of resources in few hands, which in turn divided the society into two segments, that is haves or have-nots. So see, which segment is having more resources, they are having, some segments in our society are having all the resources, some segments are not. This created a division in our society, that is the so-called rich and poor, isn't it? Rich people, they are having all the resources, and poor people, they are not having access to all the resources. So this crisis of accumulation of resources in one hand led to the severe society division, isn't it? Now, indiscriminate exploitation of resources has led to global ecological crises such as global warming, ozone layer depletion, environment pollution and land degradation. So, what are the major problems humans are facing because of resources depletion? Okay, so we can write what are the major problems human beings are facing because of depletion of resources. Okay, what are the major problems humans are facing because of the depletion of the resources? Okay, so the answer will be number 1, that is the depletion of resources. First thing is resources or depletion of resources. Resources to satisfy the greediness of human beings. Second one is it divided the society into two so-called classes, that is have and have not, or you can say rich or poor, as the accumulation of all the resources in one hand makes or creates haves and have not. Okay, so first one is already the resources are getting exhausting or depletion of the resources. Second one is it is divided the society into two strata or two classes, that is have or have not, that is rich and poor, which is so-called terms such as rich and poor. And the third one is indiscriminate exploitation. We all know that indiscriminate exploitation will lead to global warming, ozone layer depletion, water pollution, soil pollution and all. Okay, so the third one is indiscriminate use of resources led to global warming, ozone layer depletion, environmental pollution and land degradation. Environmental pollution and land degradation. Okay, so these are the problems which we human beings are facing because of the overuse, or you can say overexploitation of the natural resources. Okay, now to combat all these resources, what we can do? There should be some way so that all the resources should be conserved, isn't it? So it is called the sustainable development. we have to use the method of sustainable development, which is actually a process through which we can use the resources as well as we can replenish and renew the resources to maintain a balance. It is a process by which we can maintain a balance, how to use them and how to wisely conserve them for future use. So the process is known as sustainable development. Okay, now let's read further. An equitable distribution of resources has become essential for the sustained quality of life and global peace. So it is very important that the resources which we are having should be equally distributed to every hand, isn't it? See, the problems we have already understood that if someone is having more resources, they are going to become more rich and the others are going to get deprived from all the resources. So there should be some ways just to equally distribute the resources throughout all the persons, isn't it? So that there should not be any class divisions. Everyone should have access to the resources which are actually not free gifts but actually are the gifts of nature, of our mother nature. Okay, and we should conserve them properly so that we can utilize them in future. Now this all we can do through resource planning and sustainable development. Okay, it is all important to plan how to use the resource. Okay, resource planning is the way or a process where we will plan how to use the resources to use it for future use and how to create a balance between the present use and how to conserve them for the future use. Okay, now see, let's read the book. Therefore, resource planning is essential for sustainable existence in all forms of life. Sustainable existence is a component of sustainable development. Now, it is a component of sustainable development. Now, what is sustainable development? Just a few minutes ago, I have explained you that it is a process by which we create a balance between how to use them and how to conserve the resources for future use. Okay. Now, see, sustainable economic development means development should take place without damaging the environment, and development in the present should not compromise with the needs of the future generations. Okay, so the question can come, what is sustainable development, or short note on sustainable development. So it is very important part. Okay, sustainable development. It's very important. Okay, sustainable development. Okay, so sustainable economic development means development should take place without damaging the environment and development in the present shouldn't interfere in the needs of future generation. If you want to write bookish language, you can write down from your book. If you don't want, you can just create a variation, and if you want in a simpler form, you can write down the balance between how to use the resources in present time without damaging the environment, and the development on how to conserve them for future use. So in a very simpler way, we can write down that it is a process through which we can use the resources without damaging our environment, and we can create a balance between how to use the resources in present times and how to conserve them for future use. Okay, so this is very example. So to make people aware of this importance of resource planning and sustainable development, several summits and so several agendas were taken. Okay, so just to make the people aware of the importance of sustainable development. Okay, now next we'll read about the Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit, which happened in 1992. It is also very important. In this summit, this is actually a conference or a meeting where all the world leaders they attended, and there so all the world leaders they have vowed, they have took oath or they have vowed just to protect the environment equally, globally. Each and everyone should support to protect the environment and for the socio-economic development of each and every country. Everyone should have contribution to save the environment and to look after the socio-economic development of each and every country. Okay, now let's read what they have given in your book. In June 1992, more than 100 heads of states met in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil for the first International Earth Summits. Okay, so 100 heads of states, okay, of USA, they met in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. Okay, so the place is Rio de Janeiro in Brazil for the first International Earth Summit. Now, what was their motive? We will read here. The summit was convened for addressing urgent problems of environmental protection. So, its motive was, its aim, what was the aim? The question can come, what was the aim of the Earth Summit, first International Earth Summit, or the Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit, which happened in 1992. Okay, so you can write the aims of the Earth Summit 1992 or the Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit 1992 are as follows. Number one is to solve the problem of environmental protection and socio-economic development of the global level, at the global level. The assembled leaders signed the Declaration on Global Climatic Change and Biological Diversity. So what they done there? They addressed a treaty, a type of treaty or a declaration, okay, on global climatic change. They have to change globally the climate and they have to look after the biological diversity. Okay, the Rio Convention endorsed the Global Forest Principles and adopted Agenda 21. In this summit, they have adopted the Agenda 21. Okay, just to protect for achieving sustainable development in the 21st century. Okay, so we have learned what is sustainable development, and in Rio de Janeiro, they wanted, in that meeting, they wanted to attain sustainable development till 21st century. Okay, now let's read what is the aims of, let's write down the what are the aims of Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit. Okay, aims of Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit 1992. Okay. Now, number one is to solve the urgent problems of environment. Number two, to solve the source problems of socio-economic development at the global level. Okay, global level. Okay, and in this Earth Summit, it was held in 1992 on June. In June 1992, or you can say on June 1992. Okay. Now, in this summit, they have adopted the Agenda 21. Now, what is agenda? Agenda means list of programs. Okay. And 21, why we are calling it Agenda 21? Because it are the list of programs to be fulfilled to attain sustainable development till 21st century. Okay, so let's read about the Agenda 21. Now, before reading the Agenda 21, I will like to explain you something about Agenda 21. This Agenda 21 is also used to eradicate poverty, to control and to conserve the resources, to control pollution, to combat socio-economic problems of our society. Okay, so Agenda 21 is nothing but the list of programs which we should follow to combat poverty, to combat environmental problems and socio-economic problems of our country or of our world. Okay, it should be at global level. Okay, not country level, it should be at global level to solve all the poverty, eradication of poverty problems of our globe or our earth. Okay, now let's read. It is the declaration signed by world leaders in 1992 at the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, UNCED. Now, what is the full form of UNCED? United Nations. Let's write down. United Nations Conference, UNCED. Okay, United Nations Conference on Environment and Declaration and Development. And Development. Okay, so here they have done the declaration of Agenda 21. Okay, now here, which took place at Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. So this Agenda 21 was adopted. Agenda 21 was adopted during the Earth Summit. During the Earth Summit in 1992 in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. Okay, now it is an agenda to combat. What was the aim? It aims at achieving global sustainable development. Okay, so the aims were the aims of Agenda 21. Okay, now the aims of Agenda 21. So I hope you understood why it is called Agenda 21, the list of programs to be done to attain sustainable development till 21st century. Okay, so the aims of Agenda 21, first one is to attain sustainable development at global level. Number 2 is to combat poverty, pollution, okay, environmental damage, diseases, etc. Okay, so through global cooperation and common interest, mutual need and shared responsibility, and this should be done. How these aims, how it can be attained? Through mutual cooperation, equal sharing of equal responsibilities and needs. Okay, one major objective of Agenda 21 is that every local government should draw its own local Agenda 21. So one of the major motive was that every local government should, because local government, they are more familiar with the problems their area is facing, the people of their area are facing, isn't it? So one of the major motive of this Agenda 21 is the local government should draw one Agenda 21 depending on the area or the place, the need of the area of the place of the people. Okay, the people living there. Okay, so today I will complete up to this. I will stop my class over here, and in my upcoming videos I am going to explain further. I hope you like this video. And if you like this video, just hit the like button and share with your friends if you think it's useful to them. Okay. Thanks a lot for staying tuned with us. And for more informative videos like this, just stay tuned with us. Okay.